Number 10. Ping pong tree sponge. Doesn't sound scary, but it is. This one is like the Venus flytrap of the trench. Even though it's got a silly name, this creature devours its prey in the most painful way possible. Though it looks pretty harmless, kind of like a bunch of fluffy dandelions tied together. Stretching out from the stem, there are like bubblegum bubbles extending in every direction, but don't be fooled by the double bubble persona. Attached to each globe are spicules with little hooks on them. These hooks act like Velcro and attach onto the fine hairs of crustaceans. Once they hook, the sponge draws its cells towards the prey and begins a process called phagocytosis. Phagocytosis is the ingestion of bacteria, and the process takes tiny pieces bit by bit until the creature is no more. What a way to go! Huh? It would be like someone stripping off a portion of your cells until you utterly dissolve. Ah! That's horrific! Gross. Number 9. Giantism. Considering life can indeed survive in the deepest areas of the Mariana Trench, it's opened up a lot of questions about the conditions under which life can develop and survive. Say for instance, if life can thrive here, but can it survive on Europa, for example? But not only are there creatures living there, some of them are giant. This is known as deep sea giantism. Giant amoebas and isopods have been discovered, and scientists are aching to know why. Massive amphipods have been discovered and get bigger the deeper they go, while the more shallow the water, the smaller they are. So it begs the question, what else is bigger than it should be lurking down there? Number 8. Zombie worms. If worms make you squirm, then I give you full permission to skip to number 7. But for everyone else, I'm glad you're sticking with me. Zombie worms, aka Osidax, may not be your typical zombies, but they share some similar traits. They like to eat things that are dead and alive? I don't know. These little guys, once they latch on, are capable of devouring bones of some of the biggest marine creatures on Earth. Some of the bones are as hard as stone. While they sit there looking terrifying, they use a potent acid to dissolve the bone and bacteria for their consumption. They also have a very strange mating ritual, as the males actually live inside the females, and it's the females who devour the bones. So I'm almost glad the real zombies don't reproduce that way, or at least that I know of. Like, there's probably a comic out there inspired by these special creatures, so who knows. We'll see that in the next like 30 days later, 28 days later, whatever it is. Number 7. Dragonfish. Tiny but mighty has never been so strange, but it's so small, How could I be so scared of it? Dude, the whole world is terrified of spiders. So don't ask me, they're like this big, but they just make me want to die. The dragonfish is a scaleless, slimy fish with massive teeth compared to the size of its body. If one bit you, it'd be like being stabbed by tiny needles. Like many others on this list, this creature is capable of emitting its own light by way of bioluminescence. Like an anglerfish, it has a small probe that glows to attract its next meal. It feeds mainly on small crustaceans. These poor crustaceans, they got a hard life. And fish, though it's not really picky. I don't think it can be when you live down there. It can withstand the immense body-crushing weight of depths of 5,000 feet, so do not be fooled. You gotta be an incredibly powerful fish to be able to withstand that kind of environment. Number 6. The Frilled Shark. Fun fact about this keen survivor. The frilled shark was thought to be an extinct species until 2 men in Australia accidentally caught one in their net back in 2015. A terrifying combination of an eel and a shark. These apex predators are notorious for swallowing their prey whole. It's slim pickings down there. They don't know when they're gonna get their next meal, so you might as well just gulp it down. They have several rows of sharp teeth, perfect for hooking their prey into the depths of their stomach. They mostly enjoy squids, but have been known to enjoy some fish and even their own kind. They are incredibly rare, as you can probably guess, so very little is known about their ecology. So the information we do have are from the ones we've managed to capture. But perhaps the reason they have survived 80 million years, is because of how well they've flown under the radar. Makes you wonder if there are any other deep sea creatures we think are extinct, but are simply waiting. Ooh. Number 5. The viperfish. I guess if you don't see the light of day, there's no reason to look good, I guess. Though it is cool to be resilient, it doesn't come gift wrapped. The viperfish is yet another really unusual looking fish on this list with a ruthless attitude. attitude. It has huge fang-like teeth so big they don't fit in its already massive mouth. Tiny but mighty, this creature reaches about 11 to 12 inches in size and are capable of reaching very high speeds. They claim their meals by ramming into them and impaling them with their sharp teeth. They know this because the first vertebra right behind the head is designed to absorb the shock. Sometimes though, it plays the waiting game. It uses its long dorsal fin conveniently equipped with, together now, bioluminescent photophore. You'd think with so many creatures playing the same game, the smaller prey would be wise to it, but thankfully for the viperfish, not yet. Maybe later. Number 4. Fan-fin sea devils. Life always finds a way, and in the darkest, coldest parts of the world, creatures like the fan-fin sea devil have come up with some weird ways to survive. The fan-fin is a type of anglerfish, but instead of one bioluminescent lure, they have a whole army of them. It looks like a fish with a bunch of hairy spores stretching out from its body. They float through the water seeking any potential prey, plus they help the fish balance. Thankfully they are pretty tiny, with the females reaching only about 6 inches in length, so if humans actually figured out how to swim down there in a wetsuit, its bite may hurt but it won't cause much damage. The males are actually so small they are considered parasites that latch onto the female in order to reproduce. Ruthless, man. Woo. These ladies are fierce down there in the depths. Number 3, the barrel eye fish. Ever wish you could see into someone's head? Well, chances are, if you've thought about it, something like it exists. The barrel eye fish is a creature that leaves it all out on the table, has nothing to hide, and it creeps me the heck out. On top of its head is a transparent dome, and the 2 glowing orbs inside it are actually its eyes. It seriously looks like it swam straight out of a comic book, but hey, truth is stranger than fiction. Its eyes are ultra sensitive to light and can rotate up to see silhouettes of their prey. They capture as much light as possible, and their flat fins allow them to hover and wait for some unlucky dinner to pass on by. Weird, creepy, strange, I don't like it. Number 2, the goblin shark. Guys, this poor dude. I can't help but make a face every time I look at this creature. It looks like Tim Burton drew the ugliest thing he could think of, and nature thought it was a great idea. You know? After all, you don't get called a goblin shark for looking pretty unless you're David Bowie. He's the Goblin King, and he's so nice. The creepiest thing about them is that they can shoot their jaw out 3 inches in order to lunge out at their prey. Their long, unfortunate looking snouts are covered with sensory organs called ampullae, which will help sense electrical fields. They can technically see electricity, which is kinda cool. Their main sources of food consist of some creatures already listed, like the anglerfish, squid, rat tails, dragonfish, along with cephalopods and squid. So at least they're eating some of the other scary things, but still. Try getting that image out of your head. Like just the jaw, it's like don't like it. And last but not least, human garbage. Out of all the creatures and discoveries on this list, this one sent the biggest chill down my spine. 35,000 feet below sea level, human garbage has been found. A plastic grocery bag is the deepest known piece of plastic trash ever found at a depth of 36,000 feet inside the trench. It was found when scientists looked through the deep sea debris database, a collection of videos and photos from over 5,010 dives over 30 years. Plastic was the most prevalent of all the debris in the database, making up 89%. It was mostly the single-use plastic fork or water bottle, so think about that the next time you go for takeout. You might accidentally stab an anglerfish.
Starting us off at number 10 is a plastic bag. That's right folks, even the deepest spot on Earth isn't free of man's worst creation ever. Single-use plastics. During one of the deepest dives ever recorded, famous underwater explorer Victor Vescovo traveled 7 miles below the ocean's surface down to the Mariana Trench. While down there, Vescovo and his crew discovered tons of new and interesting things, but not all of them were cool. He reported that he also found a plastic bag and even some candy wrappers. Down at the deepest place on Earth. So, that's cool. Folks, I don't think it's a hard concept to understand, but please don't litter. Things like plastic bags were not made to help out anyone but ourselves. These cause a great danger to our wildlife all around the world, and if we have to use these materials, just please dispose of them properly. No one else should have to put up with your trash except for the garbage man.
In our number 9 spot today, we have the fact that life exists. The first time anyone ever went on a deep dive into the Mariana Trench, no one was exactly expecting to find signs of life in the extreme environment of the deep sea. So it was quite a shock when they found out it was absolutely teeming with life. Because of the lack of sunlight, or really any light, in the Mariana Trench, you won't find any plant life or algae, but there are tons of living beings, from microorganisms to scary looking fish. All of the life in the trench has had to adapt in one way or another in order to live in this environment, whether that is naturally developing pressure-proof shells, or having insane eyesight that can catch even the faintest glimmer, or having other heightened senses that can help detect prey or predators. All of these special adaptations help us understand more about how life in the deep sea evolved, but some can even be used to help us advance scientifically and medically. It is no small feat to head down to the Mariana Trench, but the more we can discover down there, the better.
At number 8, we have Jupiter-like microbes. Say what? Back in 2012, during the Deep Sea Challenge expedition, researchers found these fuzzy mats of bacteria clinging to the rocks at the bottom of the trench. Usually one of the first things scientists look for in the harshest places on Earth are any signs of life possible. It helps them understand how life can be possible in parts of the world or even the universe that don't operate like Earth's habitable places. When scientists explored the Serena deep part of the trench with a robotic lander, they found evidence of a thriving microbial community down and around the deep sea rocks. These microbes appear to feed off of the chemicals produced with the sea when the sea floor rocks react with the water. Because they don't rely on the falling of the marine snow, it raises questions and possible hypotheses for scientists that maybe this is how some life forms exist in the farthest reach of our universe, such as Jupiter and Saturn's moons.
In our number 7 spot today, we have the Daikoku Seamount. This seamount is located within the Mariana Arc and was fairly recently found to be hydrothermally active. So basically it is a functioning underwater volcano, which is super cool. That is not even the cool and unexpected discovery I want to talk about today. During the submarine Ring of Fire expedition in 2006, it was realized that this seamount happens to also feature a pool of liquid sulfur. That might not seem like the most amazing thing, but it is definitely very cool. Firstly, the way it looks is absolutely insane because it has gases rising off of it which appear as smoke, but like smoke underwater. I don't know the science behind it, but all I know is that it looks like nothing I've ever seen before. The next reason why this is super cool is because of the fact that this is almost never seen here on Earth, and the only other time we found a comparable pool of sulfur to this one has been on Jupiter's moon Io.
At number 6, we have the Mariana snailfish. At 8,143 meters below the surface, scientists discovered a new kind of fish they call the Mariana snailfish. This is a white translucent fish that has broad wing-like fins and an eel-like tail and slowly glides near the bottom of the ocean floor. You can also see its liver from the outside of its body. Ew. While this is the deepest they have ever found an actual fish, researchers don't believe there is much more swimming below that. The amount of pressure is so high that they don't believe any fish is chemically able to withstand the destabilizing effects of its proteins at the depth. So the Mariana snailfish may just be the deepest dwelling fish on the entire planet, which I'm sure we are all hoping for some large, weird, space-looking like deep sea monster, but for now we will just have to settle for a snailfish. It's okay, little guy, I still love ya.
In our number 5 spot today, we have human mercury pollution. It was once believed that methyl mercury was mostly produced in the top few hundred meters of the ocean, which would have limited the mercury bioaccumulation because it was thought that the fish who make their home in the deep sea would have a very limited opportunity to ingest the methyl mercury. But a recent discovery has shown that this is just not true. According to 2 separate studies which were presented at the Goldschmidt Geochemistry Conference, there is clear evidence of the presence of both man-made and natural methyl mercury, which is quite toxic. This means that since this is spreading to the absolute depths of the Mariana Trench, the pollution is turning out to be much more widespread than what was once thought. They know that it is coming from the mercury in the upper ocean because of some sort of isotope evidence. The reason this discovery is important is because when mercury reaches the depths of the sea, it is turned into methyl mercury, the super toxic one, by tiny microbes. From there it gets eaten
eaten by small crustaceans, who then get eaten by fish, who then get eaten by bigger fish, and so on and so forth, and then it gets into our food web, which is dangerous for both humans and animals. It is unclear exactly what is going to happen with this information, but I guess it's good to have the whole picture in order to make the best, most educated decisions.
At number 4 we have Urethane plasticus. As we learned earlier, the Mariana Trench has not gone untouched by plastics. Well, back in 2014, scientists discovered a new species at 6,900 meters below, and the tiny crustacean was found to already have ingested some of Earth's plastic. Therefore, they gave it the name Urethane plasticus. With the support of the World Wildlife Foundation in analyzing the newly discovered species, scientists found a 6.5 millimeter large piece of large microfiber made up of 80% PET in its body. PET is a substance found in a variety of commonly used household items such as water bottles and workout clothes. Now, it's also found in deep sea wildlife, so much that we're naming deep sea creatures after plastics. This one is alarming because in the deepest parts of our planet that we know the least about, even less than space, we're still finding humans making their mark before humans even get there themselves. Yikes. Let's hope we don't have to start naming species Rubberus americanus or even Coca-Cola soft drinkus.
In our number 3 spot today we have ocean sediment. Okay, there's sediment in all of our oceans, so this one definitely doesn't seem like it should be on this list, but the Mariana Trench sediment is unique because of its extreme depth. While there are of course large fish who eat other fish, what do the small fish and living creatures who don't eat other fish eat? Since there's no plants, that is why researchers collected samples of the sediment that lays on the floor of the Mariana Trench, to see what it is made out of, to see what the heck these guys are eating. As it turns out, if the organisms aren't eating chemicals, they're eating the leftovers from the fish that live closer to the surface of the ocean. These leftovers float down to the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean, which is referred to as sea snow, and that is what becomes the meal for the smallest creatures living in the trench. Kind of gross when you think about it, but I'm happy for them.
Coming in at number 2 we have scalding hot water. That's right, just like Katy Perry, the Marianas Trench is hot and cold. At the deepest spot on Earth where basically no sunlight can get through, you would expect that the water was extremely cold, right? Wrong. Well, okay, maybe kind of right. The water usually stays between 34 to 39 degrees Fahrenheit, but also wrong. The water at the bottom of the Mariana Trench can also get scalding hot. At the bottom of the Mariana Trench there are many different hydrothermal vents, and the water that erupts out of these vents can reach temperatures of 700 degrees Fahrenheit, which is enough to scald anyone swimming down there. But fortunately, the pressure is way too high for anyone to actually swim down there, so that won't be happening anytime soon. That being said, for those that decide to dive deep down there, make sure that the deep sea sub you're in is not only pressurized, but also has an AC, because you don't want to cook like a boiled lobster.
In our number 1 spot today we have giant amphipods. I will never not be fascinated by these things, so here we are again with more giant amphipod facts. Amphipods are little crustaceans that can be found in most waters on Earth, and they're kinda like shrimp. The Mariana Trench variety are absolutely shocking compared to the amphipods we are used to, and that is because they are like the Shaquille O'Neal of shrimps. They're huge! These guys can be found 35,797 feet or 10,911 meters deep in the trench, and while most amphipods are like 2 to 3 centimeters or about an inch long, these guys are a whopping 34 centimeters or just over 13 inches long. Like, what? A scientist explained that the discovery is a bit like finding a foot-long cockroach, and I have to say that the surprise may be the same, but I would rather find a huge shrimp than a huge cockroach any day. Before the discovery of these guys, researchers didn't even know that amphipods could grow this large, so it's safe to say that they certainly were not expecting this discovery.
Starting us off at number 10, we have sweet wrappers. Some of you might be confused and not know what that is, and if you are one of those people, they are more commonly known as candy wrappers, or trash, or even rubbish, or even garbage. I think you get it now. Anyway, along with that other plastic bag that we talked about in the first video, candy wrappers and tons of other human garbage were found in the depths of the Marianas Trench. The deepest spot on Earth is still not untouched by humans. This is a sad discovery that scientists were not thrilled about, but it was also a huge wake-up call too. So let's continue to be careful with our trash and where we put it. The plastic bag was one thing, but when I found out that that was just the beginning of the human trash that they found down there, that was a little upsetting. So stop eating sweets and candy. I'm just kidding. I know we pretty much can't do that, but just be careful where we put our garbage.
In our number 9 spot today we have sea pigs. These guys are a genus of sea cucumber, but they have these little tube-like legs, which is why they look super weird. Not that regular sea cucumbers look exceptionally normal, but these ones look even weirder than the regular ones. They like to live on the seafloor where they move through the sediment searching for their next meal. They eat by extracting tiny little particles of organic matter that have fallen from closer to the surface of the ocean down to the mud on the seafloor. They're like the best little Roombas. Sea pigs tend to measure somewhere around 15 centimeters or 4 to 6 inches long, and they live at a depth of somewhere between 1,200 to 5,000 meters deep in the sea. These guys have their own special little defense mechanism, and that is how their skin carries a natural poison, which would make them a less than ideal meal for their predators. It is quite imperative that these guys stay in their deep sea habitat because they are specifically built for that, and when brought up closer to the surface, they disintegrate.
Coming in at our number 8 spot, we have robots. Say, what? Are the AIs finally taking over? Are aliens actually just ancient robots like the Autobots and Decepticons? What is going on down there? Well, none of those that we know of, but the reason why we have been able to search and discover new areas of our oceans at such great depths is because scientists and researchers have started using robots, or more commonly known as rovers, down at the bottom of the ocean. Just like the rovers we use on the moon and Mars, these underwater rovers can go where humans cannot, as well as retrieve materials that we would never be able to retrieve by ourselves. So as nervous as I am about the robots taking over, I have to tip my hat to them in this regard. So thanks, robo dudes.
In our number 7 spot today we have the Hydromedusa. This fancy pants jellyfish came as quite a surprise during a robotic exploration of the Mariana Trench in 2016. What at first looked like some sort of alien spacecraft turned out to be a new unidentified species of jellyfish. At a first sight, this jelly had its tentacles splayed out as if it was ready to catch some prey. Apparently the tentacles act as a sort of netting to ensnare and then subdue their potential prey, but this jelly quickly calmed down and continued floating on by. This guy was found near the Enigma seamount at a depth of 3,700 meters. The really interesting thing about this jelly is in its bell. While the bell itself is translucent, inside are glowing red and yellow bulbs of light. The glowing bulbs of light really do give it an otherworldly appearance, and it is simply amazing to look at.
At number 6, we have a retired US Navy officer. Yeah, you heard me. Victor Vescovo is a retired US Navy officer and is one of the 70 people on Earth who have earned the Explorer's Grand Slam title. After Vescovo retired from the Navy, he became a private equity investor with a humongous interest in exploring the wildest places on Earth. He has completed the 7 summits exploring the highest points on Earth from each continent, and most recently completed the 5 Deeps expedition, where he visited the 5 deepest points on Earth, one of them being, of course, the Mariana Trench. In 2019, in the expedition known as the Challenger Deep, Vescovo and his team visited the deepest point on Earth during that expedition at 11 kilometers below the ocean's surface and earned Guinness World Records for their explorations. Vescovo helped fund to hire the amazing team he had on board, as well as to build the latest high-tech submarine to reach such depths. They were at an area of ocean that is 1,000 times the pressure of the surface. Big ouch. So if you want to get deep, I suggest you take Victor Vescovo with you.
Coming in at number 5, at our halfway mark, we have comb jellies. Comb jellies are one of the most beautiful creatures I've ever seen in my life, and that is mostly due to their combs. The combs I'm talking about are actually plates of fused cilia, which help these jellies propel themselves through the deep waters of the Mariana Trench like their own little boat oars. There are other creatures who also have combs, but these jellies are the largest creatures with them. Why these jellies are so beautiful is because the combs create a sort of rainbow effect because of the light being scattered in different directions because the cilia are moving. Comb jellies only have one pair of tentacles, but sometimes it appears to be more, but that is because their tentacles can branch out. These jellies don't sting, and instead their tentacles are used as a sort of fishing line to help them catch their prey.
Coming in at number 4 is James Cameron. Wait, hold on a sec. Olivia, did I just say Academy Award winning director James Cameron was found at the bottom of the Marianas Trench?
You did!
I did! Yes, I did. That was so dumb. Oh my god, hashtag fire Dewey. Along with making one of his most famous movies ever about an old boat, it was also his lifelong dream of exploring the depths of the Marianas Trench. This guy just can't get enough of the underwater life, and honestly, I can't blame him because it looks super cool. Anyway, back in 2012, Cameron with the team of scientists visited the trench at a depth of 11 kilometers as well. Wait, isn't that the exact same depth as Victor Vescovo? Yeah, kinda. Vescova was able to reach just a bit further than Cameron, so this time the Oscar goes to Victor. Sorry, Jimbo. But Cameron also helped design a 24 underwater submersible sub called the Deep Sea Challenger in the shape of Titanic. Just kidding, that would be insensitive. The windows on the sub were 9.5 inches thick, so they could withstand the immense pressure. While down there, they discovered 68 new species, mostly of bacteria, but also a couple invertebrates as well. So there you go. James Cameron is just not a one-trick pony.
In our number 3 spot today, we have the barrel eye. I can talk about creatures that look otherworldly all day, and while the Mariana Trench is full of them, the barrel eye is definitely nearing the top of that list. These guys are also known as spookfish, and they have these large, protruding, telescopic eyes that are enclosed in a transparent dome of soft tissue. That was a long way of saying they have a see-through head, and it is so weird to look at. These guys can't be taken out of their deep sea environment because they are unable to withstand the change in pressure, so for a while after their initial discovery, the only way people who had seen them in the deep sea could show anyone else what they looked like was through drawings. Imagine trying to tell someone that you found a fish with a see-through head, but you have no evidence to prove it. These guys are usually found motionless, just kind of floating in one spot, as they don't tend to move around a bunch, at a depth of around 600 to 800 meters in the ocean.
Coming in at our number 2 spot is the unknown. There is still plenty of unknown left in the Marianas Trench. Countless people have now explored down there, but the water is just above freezing and it is extremely dark, and the pressure is an immense 8 tons per square inch. Holy burst eardrums, Batman! With all the tech that we have today, we are still doing all that we can to find new ways of exploring the ocean depths for longer and with more visibility. It's hard to say just how much we have really uncovered when we can only go down there for so long and with just our little rovers, subs, flashlights, and Hollywood directors. Either way, I can't wait to see where scientists take us on this next one, and who knows, maybe one day I will get my confirmed sea monster that I've been waiting for my entire freaking life.
In our number 1 spot today, we have the predatory tunicate. The predatory tunicate is like the Venus flytrap of the deep sea. These guys are one of the most unique creatures I've ever learned about personally, because I don't know any other animal that is like them. They start out life kind of like tadpoles, and then they swim until they find their perfect spot, either along a canyon wall or on the seafloor. Once they've found their spot, they plant themselves in place using a natural adhesive that they produce. Once planted, they will undergo a huge change, and this is where they will stay for the rest of their lives. They're super picky about where exactly they make their homes, because it will be where they stay, and because they need to make sure that both the chemicals in the water in that area as well as the temperature of the water is just right. Like the 3 little bears of the deep sea. Unfortunately, if these guys get moved from the location they choose to make their home, they will die, so it is imperative that they are left alone. They basically wait for food to drift on by, and like a Venus flytrap, when they get their meal, their mouths will snap shut until they're done digesting. The predatory tunicate is a point of study in the medical world because they actually have been known to help with some more serious medical conditions, which is always an incredible thing.
At number 9, we have the Dumbo octopus. It's an octopus whose favorite Disney movie is Dumbo. Just kidding, that would just be weird. Almost as weird as the real Dumbo octopus. Although that is how it got its name, because it looks like Dumbo. Anyway, 9,800 meters below the surface and found deep in the Marianas Trench, you can find these dopey, kinda cute looking creatures. These creatures go from 8 to 12 inches and swim using their ears. Seems cute and friendly enough, right? Well, surprising for all of us, the Dumbo octopus is actually a predator and can swallow its meals all in one gulp. These kind of octopi also fall under the category of umbrella octopuses because they have webbed tentacles, giving them an umbrella-like shape. Almost like a starfish, but with a massive balloon on its head. Luckily, we're all too big for this dopey looking octopus to feed on us, so if you want to go for a swim and see some, you don't have to worry about them eating you. But I can't guarantee that the other deep sea creatures won't be as small.
In our number 8 spot today, we have comb jellies. Comb jellies are gelatinous creatures that are named for their unique plates of fused cilia, which are called combs. These combs help the jelly move through the water like boat oars, and while other microscopic organisms also have this sort of mechanism, comb jellies are the largest animal with this feature. These combs are also part of the reason that comb jellies are so gorgeous to look at. Rather than bioluminescence, the rainbow light effect that can sometimes be seen on them is from light diffracting off of the combs in all different directions. Many comb jellies have one pair of tentacles, although they appear to have multiple, but that is just caused by their tentacles branching out. I'm saying the word tentacles. These tentacles are used to help them hunt like a sort of fishing line. Aside from this, these jellies don't sting, which is always a good thing. Not that I'm planning on heading into the deep sea anytime soon. In terms of today's list, I'd say these guys are one of the less creepy creatures we've got going on today.
At number 7, we have the deep sea hatchetfish. It got its name because, well, it looks like a silvery swimming hatchet. There are over 40 species of hatchetfish, and they can be found at the depths of 5,000 feet. That's just over 1,500 meters. This fish may be tiny, but it does not look that friendly nor welcoming. The deep sea hatchetfish can grow between 2.8 to 12 centimeters long. So while their size and appearance may not be enough to fend off predators, these deep sea fish have evolved to form an ingenious camouflaging technique. They are also like a lot of other deep sea fish because their bodies are bioluminescent, meaning they create their own light and can glow in the dark. Their light shines from their stomachs, but no, they do not have any Care Bear powers in case you were wondering. Revealing a silhouette can be dangerous in the deep ocean because of predators, but luckily for the hatchetfish, it can control its light to match the same light in the water. That's the super cool camouflage technique I was talking about. Man, that could be useful.
In our number 6 spot today, we have the anglerfish. If you've seen Finding Nemo, you might recognize these guys. This bony fish is known for its luminescent horn that is used to lure other fish as prey. There are different kinds of anglerfish, but those who live in the deep sea are referred to as sea devils, which truly does feel fitting. The females are much larger than the males and can reach up to almost 4 feet, while the males can reach up to 5.5 inches, but these little sea devils are able to eat prey up to the same size as itself. That's crazy. Luckily, most anglerfish remain so deep in the ocean that they are not a threat to humans. And even if they did live not quite so deep in the ocean, most humans would just be too big for them to even try to attack. That sure doesn't mean they aren't crazy to look at though. Just to add a little more about how strange these guys are though, these fish reproduce when the male fuses into the female and lives off of her resources until it can produce sperm. That sounds like a nightmare.
Coming in at our halfway point at number 5, we have the frilled shark. As if you weren't terrified enough of sharks, this one looks just as terrifying. Although, now that I see more pictures of it, I can't really take it seriously because it just reminds me of Jerry Seinfeld in the frilly shirt. Anyone else remember that episode? Sorry Jer Bear, the shark wore it better. The frilled shark got its name for its 6 to 7 frilled gills on the side of its snake-like body. But that's not the creepiest part of this shark. The frilled shark has a set of 300 razor-sharp teeth. They can grow up to 6 feet in size, which is 1.8 meters. Even though this was one of the first deep-sea animals to be discovered in the 19th century, it's not the easiest to find. These sharks swim at depths of 16,000 feet, which is around 5,000 meters. However, it is extremely difficult for scientists to study this deep-sea creature. They swim at such deep levels that when brought to the surface, they practically die immediately. Due to those reasons, there isn't much known about the habits and life cycles of these sharks, but maybe this is just one of those things that is better left unknown.
In our number 4 spot today, we have the ping pong tree sponge. Doesn't this name sound so cute and sweet, like something you'd want as a little pet?
Well, think again.
These little things are not what their sweet name would suggest. The name, of course, comes from their appearance, as they quite literally look like a little tree that's growing ping pong balls, but those little ping pong balls are where it all starts. The ping pongs have tiny little hook-like extensions that are there to trap any kind of prey that gets too close. From there, the sponge slowly consumes its prey while still alive. This may not be the most vicious creature in all of the deep sea, but it is proof that looks can be very deceiving. Would you have thought that this little thing would be a carnivorous creature? It honestly was a little surprising to me personally.
Starting us off in our top 3, at number 3, we have the goblin shark. This shark might just be the creepiest thing on this list. I don't know about you, Olivia, but how did these guys get their names? Well, let's all take a look at the massive goblin-like nose on the front of its face. Yeah, that's how it's got its name. That's how it got its name. It's not really a pretty thing to look at, but at these depths, I don't think there's many people or other fish to impress. These sharks also aren't the usual grayish color. They are instead more of a pink. Not only do these things look absolutely crazy, they are also crazy in size. Goblin sharks can reach lengths up to 18 feet. That's 5.5 meters. You probably won't be swimming near any of them anytime soon anyway though, because they live at depths of 3,000 feet. That's about 915 meters, and the older they get, the deeper they dive. A shark that intentionally swims to its grave. How cute. Same as the frilled shark, not much is known about these creatures. They're almost as mysterious and sought after as real goblins. For all we know, goblins are real, and when they get dropped in water, they morph into these crazy looking sharks and keep their distance from the rest of the world. I buy it.
In our number 2 spot today, we have the deep sea dragonfish. These guys are a pretty strong contender for the strangest looking animal on this list. These predatory fish use their fang-like teeth to grab onto their prey in the dark, cold, deep sea environment. They have no scales and instead have slippery eel-like skin, which only adds to their creepiness level. Similar to the anglerfish, these guys have a little lighted barbel that hangs from its lower jaw to attract its prey towards it. These fish really use bioluminescence to their advantage, but they also have another, less common ability. Firstly, since many of their prey are also bioluminescent, they have a special stomach that will ensure the light cannot be seen from inside of their stomach so as to not give away their position. Secondly, they are able to produce a red glow. This glow is thought to perhaps be used to signal other dragonfish, but it is definitely used by them to illuminate and detect their prey. They are the only known fish that has the ability to both produce and see red light, as most fish can only see more of a blue light. So while these guys are definitely very creepy to look at, they're also pretty interesting and very talented.
And finally, coming in at our number 1 spot and our weirdest thing found in the Marianas Trench is the zombie worm, aka the bone worm, also known as the Osidax. But I like zombie worm best. These worms live at the very bottom of the Marianas Trench and the very bottom of the ocean and feed off of bones of dead animals, such as whales. The zombie worm secretes acid to help access the inner contents of the dead bones, and it then uses symbiotic bacteria to convert the bone's proteins and fats into nutrients that it then uses as food. The feathery branches on the worm wiggle in the water and they pull in oxygen to keep itself alive. Females grow up to 2 inches in length while males are microscopic in size. Sorry boys. Females will collect a harem of males on their body, and then the males will find their way into the female oviducts. The female then releases her fertilized eggs into the water and the worm's life cycle begins again. That is about all we know about these little ones because they live at such deep depths of our ocean. So until us humans find ways to explore the depths of the Marianas Trench, we'll just have to make do with what we got.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have plastic crustaceans. A few years ago, there were little shrimp-like creatures that were found 2,000 feet deep in the ocean, and of course, none other than the Mariana Trench. The little shrimpy crustaceans are approximately 2 inches long. You might be sitting there thinking, Olivia, a shrimp is not an interesting enough creature to have on this list, but it was when researchers looked into them further, more specifically into their bellies, when things got a little weird. After further research, scientists realized that there was plastic in the bellies of all of these crustaceans. They found PET, which is a common plastic resin that is most commonly used in the fibers for clothing, packaging for food, and for plastic drinking bottles. How did we discover a new species only to realize it had already discovered our plastic pollution? Scientists are hoping the discovery will bring more widespread attention to the plague of plastic pollution across our world. It probably isn't a great sign that it's affecting our undiscovered species, even in the more difficult to reach places. In our number 9 spot today, we have the glowing jellyfish. Okay, we've all seen or at least heard of a jellyfish before, so it's not the most unusual discovery, but this fancy glowing one is definitely not your average run-of-the-mill kind of jellyfish. In 2016, scientists were surveying the waters near the Mariana Trench when they saw what looked like a glowing flying saucer, but as it turns out, it was just this new undiscovered jellyfish splayed out with its tentacles ready to catch some unsuspecting prey. Inside the bell of this jelly you can see some bright yellow bulb-like lights and some bright red markings as well. The jellyfish also has 2 kinds of tentacles, one short and one long. No description of this guy would truly do it justice, so here's a quick video just for reference. In our number 8 spot today we have the Casper octopus. This is one creature that just might be the cutest on this list, and it was discovered a few years ago by a little deep diving robot called the Deep Discoverer. One day, as the Deep Discoverer is discovering things, it stumbles upon a tiny little octopus just hanging out on a flat rock all by itself. This octopus stumped scientists for a few reasons. Firstly, it kind of resembled a known common species of shallow water octopuses, but this one was found deep in the ocean. The second thing that stumped scientists was the ghostly white color they were seeing. Octopuses have certain pigments which allow them to change color, but this little guy seemingly didn't have them because he was ghostly and iridescent. recent. At the time of the discovery, scientists were pretty sure this guy was a brand new species of octopus and even believed that it may belong to its own genus as well. In our number 7 spot today we have the Mariana snailfish. In May of 2017, the Mariana snailfish was caught on film at a depth of 8,178 meters in the Mariana Trench. At the time, this was the deepest fish ever recorded, which was a huge step forward for science. The fish was captured on video by a special little lander robot that was specifically designed for the crushing pressures of the deep sea in depths below 600 meters. The camera apparently had some sort of mackerel bait in order to entice the deep sea dwellers into getting close so the camera could get a good look at them. While this snailfish was an already known species, this video was able to catch it swimming 100 meters deeper than it ever had been found before. Was this guy just swimming to the beat of his own drum? Was he just desperate for the bait? Or maybe we just didn't previously know that these guys went that deep. The possibilities are endless. In our number 6 spot today we have the fangtooth. These creepy deep sea dwellers are exactly the kind of thing that you would think lives in the deep, dark depths of the Mariana Trench. I truthfully think that they are so frightening, so I really hope that they just stay down there. These fish are named after their teeth, which totally makes sense considering the fact that these guys have teeth so large that in relation to their body size, they're the largest in the ocean. These guys have to have a special little pocket in the roof of their mouths which are used to store their teeth so that they can actually close their mouths. That is both disgusting and horrifying. The good news is that these guys do not have very good eyesight at all, but I guess with teeth like that, who needs eyes? It is currently believed that these guys hunt by just bumping into their prey, sensing vibrations and movements in the water. All I'm saying is that the Mariana Trench is definitely staying off of my list of travel locations. In our number 5 spot today we have the sponge. I don't know what it is about them, but sea sponges seriously gross me out. So, to my dismay, in 2015, deep sea researchers stumbled across an insanely huge sponge deep in the ocean. And when I say insanely huge, I'm talking about the biggest one we've ever found, the size of a van kind of huge. This thing looks like a huge brain and is approximately 11.5 feet long, 6.5 feet high, and almost 5 feet wide. Researchers explained that huge sponges like this one are integral to providing key ecosystem services like filtering a ton of seawater, as well as the fact that they act as a habitat for a ton of different invertebrate and microbial species. Sea sponges are apparently really difficult to date, but it is known that some can live as long as 2,300 years, which is insane. So I guess while they look ultra weird and really freak me out, they aren't all that bad and do some really important work. Just another case of not judging a book by its cover. In our number 4 spot today we have the Granrojo Jellyfish. These guys were first discovered in the mid-1990s and weren't officially categorized as a new species until 2003. Not only did their discovery come with a new species classification, but also a new subfamily. The species was originally being called Big Ugly, which seems like an unnecessary roast, but after some time it was much more affectionately named Big Red. These guys are the largest of all sea jellies, growing to be around 76 centimeters in diameter. They have 4 to 7 fleshy arms rather than the tentacles we're used to seeing on jellies. While most jellies are transparent, these guys are red all over. Because of their deep sea habitat, there is still so much we don't know about them, and only 23 have ever been actually found and identified, so while the research is currently lacking, scientists are doing their best to get us some more answers on these big red jellyfish. In our number 3 spot today we have the barrel eye. Okay, this guy is one weird looking fish. The barrel eye fish is also known as a spookfish, and they of course get their names due to their appearance. The fish are relatively small and are best known for their extremely unusual, transparent, fluid-filled heads. When these fish were first discovered, there were so many questions surrounding them. At first, scientists thought that their eyes were fixed in place, but after further research, it was able to be determined that they are able to rotate them both up and forward. This fish is usually found motionless, just hanging out in depths of around 600 to 800 meters or 2,000 to 2,600 feet in the ocean. This fish has been known for quite some time, with the first discovery coming in 1939, but it wasn't until 2004 that a photographer of a live one was captured for the world to also see how unique these guys really are. There also used to be many drawings of these guys, but never with their transparent head because of the fact that it gets destroyed when the fish is brought up from the deep sea. So, not that I think anyone is gonna go diving in the Mariana Trench soon, but if you do, don't bring these guys up from their home. They're happy down there with their heads fully intact. In our number 2 spot today we have the vampire squid. The vampire squid is the last surviving member of its order, and it has similarities with both the squid as well as the octopus, which might make it a contender for most threatening animal on today's list. Like the Dumbo octopus from part 1 of this video, this guy has little ear-like fins that help it propel itself through the water, but unlike the Dumbo octopus, it isn't small and cute and sweet looking. Like a jellyfish, the vampire squid has a gelatinous body that helps it move quicker through the depths of the sea. The vampire squid is covered in light-producing organs called photophores, which they are able to use in a way that produces disorienting flashes so as to confuse their prey. While the vampire squid doesn't have ink, it does have the ability, when in really dangerous situations, to shoot out a bioluminescent mucus at whatever is attacking it. Also, this squid is able to regenerate its arms. So I think this all goes to say that if you were in a fight with a vampire squid, I really hope you came prepared, because he sure did. In our number 1 spot today we have the ghost fish. Okay, well of course I had to end off today's list with just one more deep sea ghostly creature, and this one is actually super cool. This little ghost fish was caught on camera in 2016 as it was casually swimming along a ridge around 8,202 feet or 2,500 meters deep in the ocean. The fish is around 10 centimeters long and has translucent, scaleless skin and the creepiest, colorless eyes on any fish I've ever seen. Here's the craziest thing about this whole ordeal though. This was the first time a live fish from its family has ever been seen before. This little fish swimming along, minding his own business, has absolutely no idea that he was a huge discovery for the human scientists on land. There is still so much that is left a mystery about these guys, but any kind of new discovery is most definitely always a step in the right direction. Starting off this list at our number 10 spot, we have gigantic amphipods. Amphipods are shrimp-like creatures that are usually less than 10 millimeters or 0.4 inches long. That all changed when these deep-sea dwelling amphipods were located, however, with their massive selves measuring around 28 centimeters long or 11 inches, with the largest one ever found coming in at an insane 33 centimeters or 13 inches long. Like, imagine a shrimp the size of your forearm. These guys are basically the largest amphipods ever recorded, and they've only been found at some of the greatest depths of our oceans. The first specimens of this species were collected at the end of the 19th century, and they are usually found in abyssal plains in both the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean, but of course, considering what we are here talking about today, they are also found in the Mariana Trench. Other than their crazy size difference, these guys are a lot like other amphipods, so it's unclear exactly why they're so large. These guys are basically like the Shaq of the amphipod world. In our number 9 spot today we have the fanfin sea devil. These guys are a type of anglerfish, which we talked about in part 1, but these guys truly need their own moment to shine. They have a bioluminescent lure which they use to both attract their prey as well as keep themselves from becoming the prey. These fish have little hairy spikes all over their body which are used as sensors to help the fish balance as well as helping the fish check the water surrounding it. Kind of like the whiskers on a cat, but much less adorable and cuddly. These guys, their hairy spikes and their sharp teeth are absolutely terrifying to look at, but the good news is that they're relatively quite small. The females of this species are 6 to 8 inches long, and the males are even smaller, usually only measuring about half an inch in length. In our number 8 spot today we have the lanternfish. These guys get their name from their bioluminescent abilities as they have tiny organs called photophores located on their head, underside, and tail. Like many other bioluminescent sea creatures, they use their light to attract their prey, but it is also thought that the lanternfish might use their light to also signal other lanternfish during mating. Apparently, lanternfish are the most common of all deep sea fish, and they play an important role as the prey for other larger deep sea fish. One thing that these fish do, which is unlike any other on this list, is that while during the day they are in the deepest depths of the ocean, during the night they prefer to swim a little closer to the surface in order to feed. It is thought that they do this to follow the path of plankton, which is their main food source. It is also thought that this migration pattern might help them avoid becoming lunch to squid and penguins, which are their main predators. Another interesting thing about them is that different species of lanternfish have been known to almost layer themselves at different depths, which is thought to possibly help reduce competition between species. In our number 7 spot today we have Foraminifera. These guys are giant single-celled organisms that are kind of like oversized amoebas, and they can be found in the sediment on seabeds throughout the world. In 1995, however, when Japanese researchers were able to collect samples of sediment located in the Mariana Trench, they found 432 living ones. I know I made these guys sound really large before, but I just mean large in terms of the single-celled organism world. They're still super tiny, and they are usually found with a hard outer shell, but not the ones found in the trench. These guys have basically found a way to adapt by building their own shells from proteins, organic polymers, and even sand. The ones most commonly found in the Mariana Trench are called xenophyophores, and these guys use the fact that grains of sand are mostly made out of silicon dioxide, which is the main constituent of glass, to their advantage. They basically glue sand from ocean sediments, cast-off shells, and microbial skeletons to make their own kind of pressure-proof shells. So I guess they're the engineers of the deep sea? In our number 6 spot today we have the football fish. Just another member of the anglerfish family. These guys of course get their name from their football-like shape. The females of this species are the ones who have the bioluminescent lantern on their heads, which lure in their prey for a tasty little snack. Here's where things get really different though. As their little lantern on their heads is swaying back and forth, luring in an unsuspecting fish, once their prey gets close enough, the football fish will then shoot out a bioluminescent liquid. This liquid acts to momentarily blind their prey, which is when the football fish grabs their prey and swallows them whole with their large mouths. That is definitely quite the hunting technique. These guys are similar to other anglerfish, with the females being larger than the males, and they also have a bit of a different shape. In terms of mating, because the depths of the ocean are so dark, the males will bite onto the females until their skin grows together, which is so gross sounding. From here, he is able to fertilize the eggs to produce more little weird looking football fishies. In our number 5 spot today we have the benthocodon. We have all seen a jellyfish before, but these deep sea dwellers are unlike any of the ones we usually find. Firstly, they prefer depths of around 2,500 feet or 762 meters, usually right on the seafloor. These guys are actually quite small and compact, with their bell usually measuring just 2 to 3 centimeters in diameter. Despite their small size, however, they still have around 1,500 little wispy tentacles that help propel them through the icy cold depths. These jellies like to chow down on small crustaceans and tiny unicellular organisms, but sometimes their meals are bioluminescent, which is what has led to one of their other unique features on these jellies. This unique feature would be the red color that can be found in part of their bell. Most jellyfish we know of are transparent, and if this was the case for these ones, their bioluminescent meals would be a dead giveaway for the larger hungry predators lurking around the deep sea. This is why the bit of red that they have in their bell is so important to their survival, as it acts as a cover for this blue glow so that they can continue on their merry way throughout the dark depths of the ocean. In our number 4 spot today we have the tripod fish. When you see these guys, their name totally makes a lot of sense. These deep sea fish have elongated fin rays in the tail as well as 2 in the pelvic fins, which they use to prop themselves up and just basically stand there like their own little built-in tripod. These little fin rays almost appear as antenna-like, and usually while these fish are standing in one spot, they can be seen facing upstream. They don't appear to have any kind of special visual adaptations to help them find food in their low light environment, but that's okay because these guys can find their prey without even seeing it. When these guys are standing on their little tripod, they are also at the perfect height to catch shrimp, tiny fish, and small crustaceans that are swimming by. If the catch isn't as simple as the current bringing the prey right into their mouths, the tripod fish is able to sense the prey with their pectoral fins, which kind of act like hands. Once they feel the prey and realize it's edible, they can use these fins to just knock their meal right into their mouths. This is all why they like to face the current, just to make getting their next meal a little easier. In our number 3 spot today we have the owlfish. These creepy looking guys are also often referred to as stout black smelt, as they are a species of deep sea smelt, but their owlfish name comes from their extremely large eyes in relation to their body. These eyes are able to capture even the faintest glimmer of light, which isn't the most common occurrence in the deep dark depths of the Mariana Trench, but this is what helps them spot and capture their prey, which are usually small crustaceans and jellies. There truly isn't a ton of interesting information I can find out about these guys other than their huge eyes, but I did find this cool video of one fighting with a black-eyed squid, so here's a little clip of that.
The fish has a few tricks up its sleeve as well. Owlfish have a very quick escape response, and with a flick of their tails, they can dart out of reach of a striking squid.
In our number 2 spot today we have the telescope octopus. There has been a kind of octopus on every part of this list, so we have got to keep the tradition alive and talk about the weird but interesting telescope octopus. These guys got their name for their unique protruding eyes, which haven't been seen in any other kind of octopus ever before. The difference in their eyes allows them to have better peripheral vision so as to see both their prey and their predators better. Their eyes also rotate, which I'm sure is super helpful to them, but just seems like something I wish I didn't know. These guys don't really hang out on the ocean floor like many other octopuses do, and instead they prefer to just float or dangle in the deepest currents of the ocean. Most octopuses also tend to swim horizontally, but not this guy. He likes to stay vertical, and it's unclear why, but it could perhaps be to make it harder for predators to see its shape. The telescope octopus has nearly transparent skin, and in between each of the 8 tentacles, there's a delicate webbing that fully makes it look like some kind of ghost. In our number 1 spot today we have aluminum plated amphipods. Okay, so we talked about the ginormous amphipods before, but now we have another, smaller, but equally as cool kind. These guys are found not only in the Mariana Trench, but in the Challenger Deep, which is the deepest part of the trench. Amphipods usually have shells made out of calcium carbonate, but the extreme environment in these guys' habitat make their shells basically just dissolve. They of course can't just be walking around naked and shellless, so what do? They adapt in order to preserve their shells. After collecting some of these guys from the deepest part of the ocean, scientists were able to realize that their exoskeleton contained aluminum on the surface, which then led to the question, how did these guys find the metal since it's so sparse in seawater? Well, as it turns out, these guys use sugar-based chemicals in their bellies to extract aluminum ions from the mud on the seafloor that it ends up ingesting while devouring the plant debris that floats down from the surface. In alkaline seawater, these aluminum ions form what is called aluminum hydroxide gel, which is a compound that we as humans use for things like protecting our upset stomachs from stomach acid. This gel then coats their shell and acts as a type of chemical protection so as to keep the calcium carbonate exoskeleton from dissolving. I don't know guys, I just think that's one of the coolest things I've ever heard a shrimp do. This is the first known amphipod to do something like this, and these guys are now an important part of researching how maybe one day we can find an environmentally friendly way to produce aluminum. Starting off in our number 10 spot we have giant tube worms. These guys were totally unknown to scientists until the discovery of the hydrothermal vents that we talked about last time. Like the vent crabs, these giant tube worms also live off of and thrive in these extreme areas. These giant tube worms feed off of the tiny bacteria that get their energy from the chemicals coming from the vent water. These giant tube worms grow to be around 8 feet or over 2 meters, and they have no mouth or digestive tract. Instead, they rely on those bacteria we just talked about to live inside of them for their food, like a wonderful symbiotic relationship. These guys can best be spotted by their bright red plume, which is used for exchanging compounds with the seawater such as oxygen and carbon dioxide. I could talk about these guys for forever because there's so many interesting facts about them, but I'll end off with just one more, and that is that the outer shell of these worms is made up of a natural substance called chitin, which is also the main component of the exoskeletons of crabs, lobsters, and shrimps. Okay, one more quickly, but I swear it's the last one. These two worms also have no eyes, but they can sense movements and vibrations, and they will retreat into their protective tubes when they feel threatened. Okay, now I'm actually done. In our number 9 spot today we have the frogfish. Frogfish are weird looking creatures, but they are also incredible at disguising themselves. They're fairly sedentary fish and they love to find their home on the seafloor at depths of around 1,000 feet or 300 meters. They range from a few inches to a foot in length, and their colors vary greatly, which is how they're able to blend in with their surroundings so easily. They actually have the ability to change their color if their environment changes, with a process taking somewhere from a few days to a few weeks. While they can glide through the water, they sometimes also use their fins to basically walk along the sea floor. They feed off of things like other fish and invertebrates, and on their heads they have a special modified fin that kind of resembles a fishing rod with bait on it, which they use to lure in their prey. Little does the unsuspecting prey fish know, while it thinks it's about to get a meal, it's about to become the frogfish's meal. Frogfish are able to eat prey that is much larger than themselves, as they have the ability to expand their mouth cavity to 12 times its resting size, which is insane. In our number 8 spot today we have the deep sea lizardfish. Deep sea lizardfish are a small family of deep water fish who are related to the telescope fish. These guys have flat heads and curved, barbed teeth, and they grow up to 78 centimeters or 31 inches in length, which makes them a pretty moderately sized fish. They prefer to stay at depths of 1,600 meters or 5,200 feet, and they are actually one of the world's deepest living apex predators. These lizardfish are known to eat anything that comes their way, including other fish of their own kind. Despite the lack of light in the depths of the ocean, these guys have large eyes and pupils, and their vision is actually really important for their prey detection, as their well-developed eyes allow them to see any residual or bioluminescent light. Not a lot is known about their reproduction habits, but one thing that is known is that the deep sea lizardfish have both male and female reproductive organs, which is thought to be an adaptation to low population density. In our number 7 spot today we have the ghost shark. These guys are also commonly referred to as ratfish or spookfish, and their closest living relatives are sharks and rays, but their last common ancestor lived with them around 400 million years ago. Ghost fish were once abundant and diverse, but throughout the years that has changed greatly, and they are now mostly confined to deep water. They prefer to live around 2,600 meters or 8,500 feet deep, and they have elongated bodies with bulky heads. They grow to be around 150 centimeters or 4.9 feet, and their skeletons are made of cartilage. They don't have scales and instead have smooth skin, and they range in color from black to a sort of brownish gray color. These guys use electroreception to find their prey, which is the ability to perceive natural electric stimuli, and they also have a venomous spine in front of their dorsal fins, which acts as a form of protection for them. In our number 6 spot today we have the long-tail red snapper. These fish feature a beautiful red color, and they also have very large eyes, which help it make its home in the deep sea. These guys can grow to be 3 feet or 0.9 meters long and 30 pounds. They have a forked tail that grows larger as the fish matures, and sometimes the tips of the tails have a black or white color on the ends. It takes about 4 years for these guys to reach maturity, which is relatively long for the fish world. There are a few species of this kind of fish, and they can be found in many areas of our oceans, and they are considered a delicacy in some places and cultures. It probably isn't the Mariana Trench variety that people are eating, however, as that would be quite a costly and difficult meal to achieve. In our number 5 spot today we have acorn worms. There are a few species of acorn worms, but one in particular finds its home in the deepest points of our seas. These acorn worms can grow up to 3 feet or just under a meter in length, and they often have brightly colored bodies. They have cilia on their underside, which are used to glide over the ocean floor, albeit slowly as they travel at about 3 inches per hour. As they move along, they suck the waste from the ocean floor into their gut, and they also constantly leave a trail of feces behind them, which is a nice gross fact for you. When they are ready to move to a new feeding location, they empty their gut and then they just drift over the bottom, and they do this with the help of an excreted balloon of mucus, so this whole point is just a double whammy of grossness. They can usually be found at depths of around 1,500 to 3,700 meters or 4,900 to 12,100 feet. In our number 4 spot today we have basket stars. Basket stars belong to the same phylum as starfish, sea urchins, and sea cucumbers. They resemble starfish, but they have 5 long, slender, and flexible arms. Each one of the 5 arms also branches out itself repeatedly, with each branch getting thinner, which makes the final branch quite thin and usually curled at the end. The central disc of the basket star, where all of the arms come off of, is very distinct. While some basket stars have neatly placed arms that look amazing and beautiful, some basket stars look pretty wild and strange. Basket stars move by wiggling their arms around, and they have the ability to curl into a ball when they feel threatened. They also use their arms to catch their prey as they position themselves in the current of the water. They feed on things like krill, small crustaceans, and zooplankton. Surprisingly, these guys do have a mouth, which is located on the bottom side of their disc. In our number 3 spot today we have predatory tunicate. These guys are basically like the Venus flytraps of the deep sea. These invertebrates make their home anchored along the deep sea canyon walls and sea floor as they wait for their meals to drift on by. Like the flytrap, when they catch a piece of prey, their mouth will snap shut until they are finished digesting their meal. These guys start off life looking kind of like tadpoles, and then they swim around until they find a place to land, which they do upside down by secreting an adhesive to keep them in place. From here they undergo a metamorphosis and have an incredibly large change. Despite having to worry about its predators, these guys are also very picky about where they live. They need to make sure the chemicals in the water as well as the temperature of the water are just right, and it's also imperative that they stay in place once they find their spot. If they're removed from the canyon wall, they unfortunately will die. The predatory tunicate may seem a little weird, but one cool thing is that they have been found to be useful in the medical world, and they may even have the potential to help with conditions such as melanoma and leukemia, which is absolutely incredible. In our number 2 spot today we have the deep sea hermit crab. Okay, many of us have seen or heard of a hermit crab before, so at a first thought they aren't the weirdest thing out there, but as it turns out, the deep sea variety is quite interesting. Instead of these guys carrying around empty gastropod shells like the hermit crabs we are used to, these guys instead carry around sea anemones, and it is one of the weirdest looking things I have ever seen. It looks like these crabs are missing a pair of legs, but instead the legs have actually been adapted to hold the anemone in place. I don't know about you guys, but I really think this one looks like some sort of disgusting sea spider that I hope just stays at the deepest depths of the Mariana Trench. No offense to the crab, it's just not my cup of tea. In the number 1 spot today we have the Daikoku seamount. This seamount is located in the Mariana Arc about 325 meters or 1,060 feet below sea level, and it was found to be hydrothermally active in 2003. In 2014, it was discovered that the submarine volcano was either actively erupting or had been very recently. Along with these discoveries came the realization that this seamount also features a pool of liquid sulfur that was covered in some sort of black coating. This little sulfur cauldron is approximately 4.5 by 3 meters large and is 420 meters deep. There are rising gases like carbon dioxide and hydrogen that are coming out of the pool, and they are moving that black crust that sits on top. The rising gases appear like smoke, but underwater, which is super cool. The really cool thing about this little sulfur lake is that it is almost an anomaly on Earth, and one of the few other sulfur lakes that are known is actually located on Jupiter's moon, Io. While there have been a few other liquid sulfur lakes found on Earth, the one located near this seamount is the most impressive one we have ever found on our planet.